in front of my crushes. And one of my crushes is backstage, and it's just like, you know, I'm kind of like, I'm not 14, I'm not 14, I'm not 14, sit up straight, where's your mama? Yeah. Right? We've got Rachel True in the building. And listen, I know we laugh and joke about how black don't crack, but I don't know if you've seen these sisters, but they got dipped in the waters of Lake Minnetonka or something, because I'm like, dang, man. We got Ade McCormack, you know my man, Isaac from Castlevania is in the building. You look stressed, sir. Have a berry. He's got some amazing projects out there that y'all gonna get to see in his interview. We have got 2 yellow Power Rangers, Nakia Burris and Karen Ashley in the building. Oh, I love them so much, and I always have to, don't fanboy, breathe, it's okay. Where's your mom? There you go, woosah. It doesn't crack, black don't crack. We got our food truck rally. Who's hungry? Man, listen, the food here is amazing at BlerdCon, so I want to make sure you guys get a chance to go out and enjoy all the food truck food. These guys, they're so original. They bring new stuff to the menu every year. This is the largest food truck rally of any convention in the country, by the way. I wasn't going for that, but it's there. So give yourselves a round of applause for supporting these black-owned businesses that are doing it every year. In the heat, in the rain, they're doing it, right? Also this year, we have got some amazing stuff happening on the virtual front. What we are going to do, you may see this in some of your panels, we have got a VR setup where we are going to be recording a lot of the content for this convention, and then we are going to be launching them into a VR space that we're going to invite you guys out to later this summer, maybe early fall, and have some community spaces where there's music and panels and interviews and a lot of the stuff that you guys love that we're going to bring you year round. The key is that BlerdCon is not just 3 days. BlerdCon is 365 days of the year. We want to make sure those other 362 allows you guys, the community, to get together and be with one another. Give yourselves a round of applause for that. We are going to also have some amazing gaming tournaments I want you guys to check out. We have got 3 vendor spaces. We've got the main vendor hall, we've got the Potomac room, and we've got some vendors and artists up on the Tidewater level, where we also have Clip Dart, where everybody here, y'all gonna get your hair cut. Who getting the edge? Who getting the edge? Don't make me point you out. Don't do it, don't do it. You got your appointment, we'll keep it between us. You gonna get yourself straight, yes? So you're gonna get with Clip Dart and get yourself a haircut and get clean? Nice, nice, I love it. So, what I wanna do now is I want to bring 2 of my absolute favorite people onto the stage. Do you guys know this amazing young lady by the name of Zero Gravity? Do you guys know Zero Gravity? She is a horror maven, blogger. I've known her for years. She did an amazing interview last year with Orlando Jones. And she is going to be interviewing another one of my favorite people, Rachel True, right here, right now. So, Zero, she done already started the interview. I gotta break this up over here. Yes, get your mic, get your mic, get your mic. Grab both of them so Rachel can have hers. There you go. Give it up for Zero Gravity. And now give it up for Rachel True. I know you're gonna be. Okay, breathe.
I brought this for.
Wait, where's my hug at?
Oh yeah, that was it. I only heard you 4 times. My little baby sister. All right, y'all, give us a love. Big round of applause right now. Go for it.
Now give yourselves a round of applause. Yeah, you guys are looking good. I see you.
I was about to say good morning, but. Wait, oh. Are we good? Okay, I think we're good. I just stepped right off the train. I sorry. Welcome everyone to the next installment of BlerdCon 2023 Fade to Black. My name is Zero Gravity, as Hilton had just mentioned earlier. First and foremost, I am a big old blerd. And secondly, I'm a journalist and entertainment host, and I specialize in horror, sci-fi, and dark fantasy realms. And today, it is an honor to host this conversation with one of my biggest inspirations as a Black woman in the horror industry. I know she means a lot to you all too. So, and you know, we don't have all day, and I just stepped off the train, so let's get into it. Please raise your hands, okay? If you're here because of half and half. All right. Raise your hand if you're here because of half baked.
I see you.
I see you stoners. Raise your hand if you're here because of the best teen supernatural horror drama of all time, The Craft. That's what I thought. Or raise your hand if you're here to find out whatever the hell Rachel True's hair and skin routine is.
You all don't need it. Well, pretty much a lot of y'all are Black here. We know the deal. I mean, that's the truth, right? Because in Hollywood, everyone's like, what do you do? And I'm like, nothing.
Okay. You have become a very huge piece of my horror podcast. Sometimes my co-host Sheree will pull cards for us during our recordings from your tarot deck. And it really helps set the scene and get our minds on track for the future, whatever is to come for us. Can you tell us a little about your inspirations from your tarot deck?
Oh, okay, so I don't know if everyone here knows, and I haven't had any coffee yet, so just, I don't know. But I wrote a book, a tarot book, a how-to, that also includes 22 personal memoir essays from my life, kind of to illuminate the cards. And my whole goal with this book was, listen, I got introduced to tarot cards at 8 years old. And then when I got a little older, I was in New York City. When I got a little older, more rural, I was like, oh, a lot of my people are like, no, the devil. And I was like, listen, it's paper cards printed in China, okay? It's just, that's all. The magic of the cards is what it inspires in you. Because what you see in the image is going to be very different than what you see. So it's about, I call it a shrink in a box. It's like a therapist this way. You know when you're all freaked out and you're like, I'm gonna call every single friend I have and bend their ear and bother them and ask their opinion. I'm like, hey man, tarot is really good for self-soothing. So you use it when you're by yourself to calm yourself down. That way when you talk to your friends about something that's going on you're mad about, you understand you lead with love now because you love those friends, right? So instead of going, you know what, I'm really mad at you, and getting into a fight with your friends, I use tarot to kind of help me figure out what's going on in my brain, what my part is. That's my biggest thing, is what is my part? Because it's really easy to go, well, you did this, or my parents did this, or you did that. And I'm like, no, you know what? I'm grown enough to be like, what's my part in things? So that's what I love tarot for. The other side of it is, can you use it to develop your intuition? Sure. I mean, gut intuition is how all people survived before we were, in societies like we are. You had to go, is there a big tiger behind me? I have to use my intuition to know if I'm in danger. So that's why I love tarot, and I hope some of you will check it out. Also, at my table, I am gonna do like you can pull a card, I'll tell you what it is, and then I'll sign the card and you get to keep it. So we'll be doing that if any of you are interested, but it is obviously a passion of mine because I'm just striving to be the best me I can be, and I fall often. Right? But it's about how we get back up and how we continue on.
Let's clap for that.
She's making you clap.
All right, let's talk about horror. Something I think, and I think the rest of us also think, is so unique about the craft is that it means many different things to many different people, even after 20 years.
20, it's more.
20 plus years. What do you think is the reason that we still riot for the craft and when everything else from 1996 has aged not so gracefully?
Well, I think you all would have a better answer answer for that than me because you are the reason that these movies are still alive. It's not me, it's you all watching them and keeping things alive. But personally, I think that like the witchcraft in the movie, when you think about it, is an analogy for burgeoning female sexuality, right? And we all know you can be a boy too, it doesn't matter your gender or whatever, when you are a teenager and those hormones start flooding and you realize, as a guy or girl or whatever you are, that you can just with a look, do something that you had never understood in yourself before. So I'm not negating that the witchcraft is a big part of the movie, but what I'm saying is I think why it stayed in the public sphere is because it also super captured the angst of the 90s, like that anger that we all have as teenagers when you're and society was different than now, in some ways better, but in a lot of ways not as progressive, right? So I think it captured the rage that was going on. What do you think?
You took the words out of my mouth.
Hold on, you have to read from that, but give me the clipboard because I need to fan myself. Some of you are jealous that I have a fan right now, I know.
Is it true that in the craft, that as the girls became stronger, their skirts got shorter?
Yeah. I was like, this skirt is up to my lady bits. We are very powerful in this episode. Yeah, the first scene, I think the skirt is like below my knees. And so as they come into their power, hold on, can someone back there bring me like a napkin? Because I'm dying of heat. Thank you so much. I asked a question again? I'm really hot, you guys. It's so hot up here. These lights are deadly.
Power stronger, skirts shorter.
I think, again, it leads back to that analogy of the burgeoning sexuality and what we can do with it, because I think that is a very fertile, rich time in our lives, and it is the first time we realize we are our own autonomous person, right? But yet, the power of that movie is that the girls realize we are stronger when we are connected, when there are four of us together.
That is exactly the answer I wanted. All right, so in the future, I want more rated R films about the powerful potential of black girl magic. Maybe in a literal sense, right? What kind of rated R horror movie does Rachel True want in the future?
Oh gosh, I love that horror has exploded, right? I mean, because some of you are grown enough to remember when horror was like, oh, horror, right? When it was sort of, oh, you like horror? You know, and we've seen it become actual, things were talked about in the media, like real movies, because they are real movies, and horror has always, if any of you seen horror noir? Yeah, then you know what I'm talking about. And for those of you who haven't seen horror noir, it is the documentary that Shudder did, and it goes through black horror films, through history. But not just black horror films, it also touches, it's very funny too, by the way. It's short and funny. Thank you so much. It's short and funny. But what it also does is show you the analogy, like when we look at the creature from the Black Lagoon, is that not a stand-in for a strapping black man stealing their white women? It starts to break down. And so horror is actually so much deeper than it was given credit for in how it reflects what is happening in society.
Period. Yeah, you can clap. Let's clap for that.
Horror Noir, I think, is on Amazon Prime as well. You can check it out there. There's some super talented people involved in that.
There's also a great podcast if you want a little bit more. And Rachel True does have an episode of the Horror Noir podcast if you want a little.
It's based on a book by Robin Means Coleman called Horror Noir.
Yes.
Which I will say horror 12 different ways during this interview.
That's the New York is coming out of you right now.
Till I get my coffee.
All right, on the topic of horror noir, what are the horror tropes that make you say hell no?
Oh, well, dying first is never fun. I mean, that's never, first horror movies was Embrace of the Vampire, which is very hard to find because Alyssa Milano is very naked in it, and she was very happy to do it when we did it, but then afterwards she was like, I don't know. So she got the movie pulled. But it was a vampire movie, and I was like, let me guess, I'm the first to die? Also, they were just gonna break my neck, and I was like, I'm in a vampire movie. The vampire will kill me. So I made that happen, even though I was dead by page 39.
You already answered my last question. Have any of these landed on your desk? Hopefully nothing else. No other horror tropes have landed on your desk.
No, I mean, listen, we're always battling against tropes, right? Every single moment of our lives, whether we're talking about film or our actual lives. So I am glad that we've got, Monkey Paw Productions out there celebrating us. Celebrating our stories and not afraid to lean into the blackness of the story. Because again, most of the time, like for me in my career, I was usually the one black person in the movie full of white people. So I had to deal with the trope of, are you okay? Because it's not about me. I'm black, I don't have any storyline or anything. I'm just here to serve you, white girl, who's probably less, exciting than me, but I will be here to serve you. What, I said it. That's every black actor will tell you.
Did you see the blackening?
Yes, I saw the blackening. Yes. By the way, listen, I can't believe I'm gonna admit that. I got most of the jokes. But there were a couple in there I was like, damn, I am not Southern and black. That is what I have realized right now in this movie. I think if you get a chance, see it. It's sort of great just to see. I spent some time shooting a movie in South Africa, and when I came back, all the adverts, everyone in the adverts was black. Harley Davidson advert, there's a black couple riding the bike. You've rarely seen that here. The adverts everywhere, the billboards, everybody was black. I come back here and I was like, oh my God, where are we? I can't see us, I can't see our image, I can't. So, it was a real eye-opener, as I'm sure you all know, because we're all living it. But we continue, and we continue to move things forward with our stories and by using horror. And one thing, like I just said, I'm not Southern, but there are so many Southern Gothic stories waiting to be told. Am I not right? That I don't know, but some of you here know them, and I'm going to encourage you to write them yourselves. Why couldn't any of you write a movie? You could. That's right.
Absolutely. The pressure's on.
And write me a good part, girl, okay?
Yes. All right, if I may get a little bit heavy, many of us here on stage, backstage, in the audience as well, are front-facing creatives in our own right and struggle with understanding where the median for blackness is in the public eye. And sometimes we're too much, sometimes we're not enough. Please tell me this shit gets easier.
What she said. I think that rather than, because I'm grown, right? I've had to look at life like this. It's not that you hit a plateau and all of a sudden things are easy. Easy street forever. Life doesn't work like that. There's French philosophers I really like, Deleuze and Guattari, and they have a book called 1,000 Plateaus. And the concept behind that philosophy is there are 1,000 plateaus, right? The second you get to this one, you're already in a state of becoming something else, right? And reaching for this next plateau. So my thing is life is more like a spiral. It spirals down, but then it spirals up, and then it spirals down a little bit. So it's more, what I can encourage people to is to enjoy the good times. When you're having them. Most of us are so caught with anxiety and all this stuff that we don't even enjoy the moment when it's happening or a little bit after that. So my thing is, life for everybody though, not just us here with our brown faces in this room is a struggle. Everybody in life is dealing with struggles that we do not see, cannot see, or maybe we can see some of them. But I would say the part that gets easier, and some of you grown-ups know this, is as you grow up, you really become comfortable with who you are. And then that makes navigating the world, right? Much easier. And some of you who are really young are like, what do you mean? I'm like, oh, you'll see. You'll see. Because, you know, looking around and going, well, what are they doing? What are they wearing? Do they like me? I don't give a shit. I mean, I do, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm here for a reason. I wanted to come to BlerdCon, right? To be amongst the people, white and black, everybody who is here celebrating this, but to be among my people is a beautiful thing. So I'm taking this moment and enjoying it. So it's not that I don't care, but if you don't like my shirt, I don't care. It's because you're talking about yourself. If you say, I don't like your shirt, I'm like, that has nothing to do with me. Right? So I think leaning into like who you are and being comfortable with that instead of trying to be like everybody else, because me being weirdo me is the reason I'm sitting here.
Put that one in your pocket.
I don't know if that answered the question, but you know.
It sure as hell did. So our general understanding of the sticky situations of the craft is that you had seemingly, before we all ingested it as a community, a very one-dimensional image to play next to the other girls, and it may have been reflected in y'all's press run. We don't have to open up that can of worms. That was literally last week, and it's right now. But after your experiences on the craft, did you change the way you looked for projects as an actor who is susceptible to stereotypes?
Well, no. Look at me, I got the same hairdo I've had since I was 3. At one point, someone did tell me, like, you need to get a straight wig and do all these things, and then you would da-da-da-da-da. Their point was, though, that I would fit the mold in town more. And I would probably get, you know, because nobody's going to cast me as a senator or a senator's wife with this hair, right? But why not? It's literally how it grows out of my head. That's my truth. So my thing to some of you out there is do whatever you want with your, I don't care, straighten it, curl it. But the more we show who we are in our state, you know, that's how it becomes normalized. And I'm not knocking the past, because my mother and grandmother and all those people had to do things to fit in. And we can look back and judge them now. Like, I see a lot of people going back and judging, you know, time periods. Like, well, why didn't you do this? Because you don't understand history, I suppose. You know, like I went to a Vanity Fair dinner, and I got sat next to a super old white musician who the first thing he said was, "You're a pretty little colored gal." But it gets better, because this was a long time ago, I think Holly Berry was getting an award, and so right at that moment, he sets his napkin on fire. So I'm putting out sort of racist musician's napkin, and Jay Leno and his wife are at the table, and Mavis Leno leans over and goes, "You of all people should be quiet right now." And I was like, I'm putting out the racist fire over here. But she couldn't see the fire. And so people were like, well, did you speak up and tell them? And I was like, hi, I'm not sure if you remember what it was like to be black at any period in history before 5 years ago. So, you know, I just think as women, you keep these, or person, not woman, doesn't matter, but you put these things in perspective. And I understood when I got the craft, actually, not to open that can of worms, but a little bit, like I overstood that this was one of the first movies they were putting a black girl in with the white girls. It would have been, I grew up on John Hughes movies, which was all white people, and then one Asian character, and he was the butt of the joke. Literally, his Asian name was the butt of the joke, and that was late 80s. So into the 90s, I understood that me being in this movie in itself was a slight victory. So then when I have no parents in the movie, everyone else has parents, I don't have any parents. Because I'm just here to serve you, white people. So, you know, things like that were kind of a drag. I would say the hardest part, and I know some of you have experienced this, where you might be the only one at your work or whatever, that was challenging, because the other girls were like, well, it's because we're more famous. And I was like, okay, well, also, how do you think you got to be more famous? Because when we did the press for the movie, you were invited to it, but I was excluded. So how we make black celebrities, right? Like, they were all up at the MTV Movie Awards. I was not invited. That is how you don't make a black celebrity.
As one of the original black girls in horror, have you seen any recent films that made you feel proud of the genre's progress?
Oh, well, like I said, I'm just such a huge Monkey Paw fan because,
Monkey Paw.
I am a Monkey Paw fan. Like all their movies, I really love. Mostly because what they've done is they stay to. Listen, I love horror. I love a slasher film too, but I actually like a good script. You know. I like a good story to go along with it. So I think anyone who can give horror a real story. So it's not just, here's our cold open where a teenager gets killed and now we spend the whole rest of the movie. It's so by the numbers, some of them, and there's no suspense. So I am an avid reader. I used to read a book a day and they were like, we don't believe you, black girl. And then they tested me and had to give me all the gold stars. So I'm telling that story on purpose to say we have to prove ourselves still, even in this day. Not when I was a kid, but still. But I was a mouthy little child who was like, I can read and I'll show you. You know, even then I was an asshole. So I think the blackening, by the way, too, was really good for that, you know, having these great characters and having, you know, black people survive, kind of great. Some of them.
Kind of great. I love to see it. You are the original manic pixie black girl, dream girl. I tried to mix those two things together, but I don't think that meshed very well.
No, but I call myself that. I'm not the OG at all, but like, you know, manic pixie black girl magic. I think that's what I call it because that was a trope in the 90s that the free-spirited white girl got to be the manic pixie girl or whatever, and they never gave us cute little nicknames like that. So I think that is kind of that free-spirited girl, and I'm actually, you know, obviously I'm glad that I got to work for my own self, right? Because I need to work and make a living, but I'm also glad I got to work because I wanted to show people out there were different types, you know? There's all different types of us. Some of us are nerdy, some of us are cool, some of us are hood, some of us are country, some of us, there's so many of us, the diversity of us is such a beautiful thing. And that is why I was like, you know what? I'm going to speak in the patois of my voice, even though it's not what Hollywood thinks of black. I can't tell you how many times they were like, okay, now black it up. Right before I'd go into network tests for a TV show, and I was like, but we rehearsed it for weeks. Like, what? I don't understand. So my thing was like, there are all different types of us, and I'm just one flavor.
There's something so, like, ground level and calming about being able to sit in a room full of everyone else who you know everyone else is just as weird as you are. It honestly is. And I think for a lot of us around my age, and maybe give or take a couple years, but we never had an icon of a truly authentic person who embraces the weird. And I think that is really, really fucking important.
Well, we also had the luxury of that. I'm gonna say my mother, my grandparents, they couldn't really do that, you know, as much as a Gen Xer could at that time. So I just went with it full force, you know, and when you think about it, the 80s, when Whitney Houston, you know, her video with her curly hair, didn't that kind of change things a little bit as far as our image? Because we had been like, 70s was froze, but we were most of us were too young for that, but then it was straight, you know, that was a uniform. So I kind of love that we can show, again, all different types, whether it's kinky coils or curly curls or no hair, doesn't matter, right? It's standing proud in what you have, because if I compared myself to everyone else in Hollywood, I would have done everything they said. Because when I got to town, they said, if you get a nose job, you'll be beautiful. And I was like, I guess I'll settle for cute. You know what I mean? Like, I don't care, I'm not that girl. And even now, I'm more interested in where this is gonna go on its own, meaning my face, than doing things to it. That's me. If someone else wants to do something else, that's totally fine. But I have been resolute in beating to my own drum. That has at times been lonely.
But I think that's really admirable, though. Because when you think of, well, back to the topic of like, we're not helping the emergence of more Black celebrities by things that you and also others have gone through outside of the actual the film scape. But my next question, or I guess prompt, is when you allow yourself to be weird and different, as the box that we are unfortunately put in expands and expands and expands, we're able to become more quirky, a little bit more zany, a little bit more ourselves. And something that I have learned from you and your tweets and the things that you write and your dialogue when you go onto podcasts and talking about being authentically yourself and how your spirituality helps you. I think that's a lot I think it's really important that a lot of us tap into that, but we don't really know where to start.
Well, it doesn't matter where you get your grounding from. Like, if you go to your church and that is your community and that's where you get your grounding from, that is a beautiful thing, right? It's not my fault. My stepmother even says, because I said, oh, you know what? Thank you for not sending me to church, stepmother. And she said, that was your white father. And I said, thank him. He's dead, but thank him for that. Now, I'm not knocking on church. I think it's a beautiful thing. I'm just saying, for me and the way that I work, it felt, at least when I was a child, which is different than now, it felt, here's what I'm going to say about religion at that time period. It was all fear-based. God, fear, you better fear God, you better fear. He's watching you all the time. You're going to go to hell. You fear. I was so afraid as a child. So when I got a little older, my choice was to totally respect God and all of that, but I'm not particularly a church person, even though I've started to go with some of my friends here and there, and it's really lovely and beautiful, right? It's a beautiful thing. But at the same time, I listen, this is just me. I don't expect anyone to agree with me, but sometimes I think we're a little yoked by things, and I do think, not the churches that we go to and love, but in the end, religion was used as a way to control the slaves. So I'm like, let's re-establish religion in a way that works for us, that is not being used to control us. And like I said, it's fine if you disagree. I'm just me.
Fine if you disagree, but at least we have the bounds to do that.
Yeah, no, like I said, whatever any one particular person's truth is, and if it is diametrically opposed to mine, but that's your truth, great. That's my thing. I'm not trying to overly control anyone. I am at times maybe trying to inspire people, like with the book. Like, even in the book, I talk about experiences in my life, some great ones, but most of them are the tough times. Why? Because if I wrote a book all about and then I went to this party and it was amazing and I danced with so-and-so, you're like, that's great that you had fun. But if I tell you the times that I'm like, here's where I fell on my face and it was embarrassing, or I wish I hadn't done that and I had to pick myself up and regroup and carry on, I think that's more helpful for people for the most part,
Absolutely. We're breezing through my questions, so I get to ask a question I didn't think that I would have time for, but I do. And I was really excited to ask Orlando Jones this question last year, but I just started experimenting with eating vegan food, and I love how much that Black people have adopted it. To just totally wipe away the stigma that would otherwise be outside of our box of what we do and what we don't do, right? And this is not a troll by any means, but can you recommend us some vegan cooking that might not take our Black card away?
No, here's the thing. First of all, I don't cook so much. I love to order things and then have them come to my house prepared. That's my way. That's another thing. My stepmother, I remember she was teaching me to cook when I was a small child. Like all our mothers did, right? And I remember being like, I'm not gonna need that. Such an asshole. But,
And you knew that?
I did. I mean, I'm not saying I knew that I'd end up here talking to you guys. I'm just saying I was like, not gonna be my bag, okay? That's just it. But as far as vegan stuff, listen, everybody should do exactly what they want with their bodies. But I am a big proponent of being healthy in your body naturally at any age. So for example, Did some of y'all know in this room, because I know some of your mamas and your aunties have high blood pressure or different, diseases or sugar sickness and all the things. Did you all know that 1.5 shrimp has your entire day's cholesterol?
Oh, wow.
No, take that to the bank and tell your family, because when you're eating the 10 to 12 shrimps, and then your mom is on the medicine for high cholesterol, what I'm saying here is let food be your medicine sometimes. And listen, I used to like shrimps until I was like, they is the cockroach of the sea, what am I doing? But they are. But more importantly than that was, what is it doing to my body and how do I feel? Do I feel good naturally in my body when I eat 10 shrimp and then my cholesterol level's overloaded and I'm sleepy and I'm out of it? Not so much. Now, does that mean you shouldn't eat shrimp? I don't know, but if you're about to have a heart attack, my advice is maybe don't eat the shrimp, So I like doing it that way. I don't eat dairy. I'm not telling you guys to do any of this, right? But my thing was, as I started to grow older in age, I started to let go of things. I already didn't eat meat since I was about 20. Then with dairy, I just realized, when I eat it, I don't feel well. And I feel icky and my stomach gets sick. In fact, the first time I ever had dairy as a small child, some white family made me a cheddar cheese sandwich and I literally exploded. That tells you I'm not supposed to eat that food, probably, that I don't have the digestive enzymes for that. So my thing is pay attention to your body. When you eat it, how do you feel half an hour later? That's how you should start judging things. Now, I think some of you are like, I love my meat. And I'm like, that's okay for you. I personally love animals and I like them alive, So I choose not to eat them. But again, everyone should do what is right for them. But I do think the better I eat, the better I look. So I'm just vain enough. Well, in the sense that I'd rather give up these foods that make me look terrible than I would go under the knife. So that's my deal, is that if I eat better, I then look better, and it's not just about looks, it's energetically. Because y'all, I'm old, but I have energy. Why is that? Because I pay attention to the signs in my body. So I can't recommend a good vegan cookbook necessarily, but I would say there's so many beautiful, beautiful references. I didn't have the web like you guys have now. You got Tabitha, and she's telling you all how to eat and all these things. So, and it makes sense. I actually see why Tabitha is the one, because if I showed up on your TV going, hey y'all, don't eat meat, you're like, all right, hippie. Okay, hippie. But Tabitha is like all of our family members, right? So it's a little easier to go, oh, okay, if you're thinking of it, maybe I should. I can't encourage you enough, though, to explore it. That's all I can say. Again, I never want to say, you need to do this. But a lot of us have lost people younger than we should have, right? Older family members, they're not here anymore. And that's what I'm talking about. I was like, wait a second, my dad died at 61. I don't want to die at 61. So part of that is about what I nourish. And I also try to think of food as it's fuel. If, because when I think I said on Twitter, I don't eat meat, I don't eat dairy, I don't drink liquor either, mostly because my body doesn't like it. I drink it and I have pain in my kidney, frankly, almost right away when I drink liquor. So I choose not to drink liquor. I do other things. Anyway, so someone on Twitter was like, you don't have any fun. And I said, well, I don't rely on food as my only source of fun. And I think that's the difference. I do eat for fun, don't get me wrong. I'm not so altruistic. But what I'm saying is, if that's the main point of the day, the only thing I'm looking forward to is the meal, and it's gonna be good and big, and then some dessert, I think that's when I would pull out my tarot deck and go, what else? Why is this the only thing in my life that's providing me entertainment, is the food right now? Anyway, I'm sorry, I don't mean to get off on that. It's just important. For me, it's a passion of mine, eating correctly, and how us as Black people being healthy.
Y'all should really go on to Tabitha, though. Tabitha's great.
Yeah, she's great.
She reminds me so much of my auntie.
That's my point, though. Tabitha reminds you of your auntie, so she is a perfect person to help introduce people.
And it just releases the stigma of like, oh, like our people don't do this. This is weird. We don't have to go there. Like, let's leave.
But
that
like,
to
here's
the
I invite people to dissect what our people do.
Yeah.
Because I think that we've used that statement as a way to further us, too, right? We've gotten ahead by what our people do. But then we also have used it to say, this is just what we do. This is just what we do. And a lot of those are holdovers from like the 50s and 60s of just what we do. We were put in those boxes. We don't have to stay there.
We don't have to stay there, and now I own an air fryer, and I make carrot bacon. All this Tabitha put me on all the time, and you definitely should too. Because experimenting, I guess, is
It's also being willing with food to like, look for some recipes, right? Because the reason people on Survivor used to get so excited when they got some salt or pepper was because spice, right? Spice is life, so
Spice is life.
check out your flavor profiles.
Sure. I don't know why that just took me out. Anyway, I was going to say, just to pull the quote from you, from Half and Half. Black don't crack, but it does sag.
That's a fact. So my Tom Hopkins said that on the script, but it's really true because a lot of us do rely too much on like, I don't have to worry about that because black don't crack. I don't have to worry about any of that, and we don't, because I didn't even use moisturizer until about 4 years ago. That's what, you know why I think, here's the thing, I didn't get on the product treadmill when I was 13. Maybe that's why my skin's okay, because I didn't sign up for all that shit. No, but I'm serious. Because we rely back on these things, but again, I ask everyone to look inside themselves and saying, is this really working for me? Whether it's a person, place, or thing, you know? I want to say one thing though, because I so appreciate the little witches who love the craft, because I was always interested in esoteric subject matters, like, and so a lot of you don't know this, but I write about it in the book. Like, I was in foster care from 0 to 9 months to 4. So when I was 4 and went to live with my dad, who, by the way, got custody of us because he literally said in the 70s to the court, I'm a white man, give me my children. And he got his children. And that would never, you know what I'm saying? The mother did not get, that's insane, you know? So when I got there, he had a huge bookcase, and the 2 books I would pull down were Carl Jung's Man and His Symbols and Nietzsche's Beyond Good and Evil. These were probably the covers that I was attracted to, right? But I could read a little at 4, we'd been taught. So for me, it's always been something I was interested in. And I invite any of you to think back to when you were a child and what was something you were interested in. It's not gonna be those books, but something you were into, and kind of get into that childlike sense of wonder that you had then, and maybe even explore some of the things you were into. But anyway, just to say on the craft, right? Because that was something I was interested in, not necessarily witchcraft, but just what else is out there? What is right there that I can almost see, but and almost touch, but I can't? So when the script came floating around, I was like, it's true, my quote, if anyone's gonna be a little black witch in this town, it's me! That's what I said. Which was fine, because a lot of girls have come up to me, black actresses, and they were like, I wouldn't have played that role because the devil. And I was like, don't worry, it wasn't your part.
Okay, we have a little bit of time for Q&A, but before we open that up for the last 10 minutes, I have one last question. But before that, I just wanted to say thank you. For speaking to us and on behalf of the weirdos, because many of us...
We are the weirdos. Chances are if you're here at some point, even you were like, you're a little weird, huh? People were telling you that. And I'm like, embrace that. Celebrate it.
Thank God we're weird.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank goodness that we are. But it's the convention hall memories that inspire us to want to be the truest forms of ourselves, like we've seen ourselves in you growing up. And
It's also okay to do nothing and like cry on the couch if you need to.
Totally.
Too, for the record.
Totally.
I'm just putting that out there. It's not like everyone or I try to be so enlightened all the time. There are times when I'm like, "Rrr," and then I let that pass. But I always try to remember, which is my goal, which is connection with other humans and trying to be the best me. And when I mess up, like I said, I'm like, all right, dust yourself off, get up and be better next time. That helps alleviate shame. That's why I'm saying that. Because a lot of people have shame about themselves, their behavior, different things. And I'm like, shame's kind of pointless, you know? Like, at that point when it comes to yourself, release some of the shame, embrace yourself.
Oh, I'm putting that in my pocket as well. Do you have any convention memories that stick with you?
Well, actually, listen, I didn't grow up in a huggy house. How many of you grew up hugging all the time? Right, not all of you. Same as me. I know, right? So anyway, I get to a convention. So the first convention I ever did is there's a lot of pictures of me like this. And then after that I was like, wait a second, I get it. There's nothing but love. It is nothing but appreciation and love. And just because I didn't grow up hugging doesn't mean you can't hug it out. This is pre-pandemic, now we fist bump. But you know, changing some of these dynamics that we grew up with is also kind of exciting for me because I don't need to hug everyone, but you know what? Being hugged is nice, right? Right? I know some of you didn't grow up being hugged, would have liked to have been hugged, I guess is what I'm saying, you know? And so hopefully, if you have children, you hug them.
Okay, we have a couple more minutes for some Q&A.
Yeah, does anyone have any questions?
So can I get my girl Ames?
Somebody asked me, oh, I see your hand.
Ames is gonna run you guys the microphone.
Why am I so sweaty? Well, because,
All right, we got one. Let's get it rolling.
Alright, so my question is kind of 2 in 1. So since I was young, I really loved acting, and basically want to know how you basically started and what you do when you get anxiety before.
It's very different how you get started in acting now. That's a great question, by the way, and I wish you much success. It's a little different than when I started, because today you could be living here and you can Google. You know, you have to do your research. Here's my number one thing for anyone. Like, first of all, if you do some of your own research and then you approach people, I'm not talking about you now, but I'm saying in general, like that impresses them. And then they'll go out of their way to help you. Like if you go to a big producer and say, so I know that I can look in Backstage and Variety for auditions. Can you suggest somewhere else? That's always great. But for you, start Googling. Have you taken an acting class? Yay! Yay, that's terrific. I always say take an acting class. Why? Because most people want to act, and it's a skill, it's a craft. It's actually a craft like anything. So do the acting class. In fact, you might be able to find a local theater, like a local group around where you live that's already teaching acting classes that you could join right now. Also on YouTube and TikTok, there are people who tell you how to get agents. So I would say start to follow some of the people who give advice. Like there's a woman in Acting Coach LA on Instagram, and she's always giving tips about how to get started. Now the second part I can help you a little more with, but not really, because nerves, right? That's a tough one. What I do think happens is there's a way to channel your anxiety and nerves. Do you know what I mean by that? Where sometimes, like if you ever do track or sports like I did, and I'd be so, because I was terrible at it. I was so nervous. But then once that thing goes off and you run, right? You're focused on this. So I would say my advice for not getting nervous is to remember with acting, it's not about you, it's about, you know, acting is reacting, but acting is really listening. So it helps if I take the focus off me and I focus on my scene partner. And my scene partner has said, what are you doing? You know, and so I'm focused on them and I'm going, well, is he my husband in this scene? And is he mad? So I have to placate him, make him feel better, right? And if that's the case, then I go, how do I do that in my normal life? How do I calm down my sister? And I start thinking about what I'm doing rather than me. Does that make any sense? Now, I can't really, I can't go more into detail, but I would advise you, like I said, to follow some of these people online because they give terrific advice and they'll go in more depth about how to take those nerves. But one of the ways you get over nerves is by doing something more than once, right? You do it over and over and over again. If you're in an acting class, you will have done a monologue 20 times. So your nerves, just by the fact that you're doing it regularly, that I promise you will help with your nerves. It's when we've never done it that we're the most nervous. But once we've done it, we kind of see, oh, okay. Does that make sense? All right. I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you for your question. All right, we have a bunch of chatty Cathy's up here, so we unfortunately have run out of time. I'm so sorry.
I'm sorry I babbled on for so long. Come by my table.
But yes,
and
the
say
good
hi.
news is Mr. will be at her table all weekend, signing tarot cards.
I see you, girl. I'm sorry they didn't get to you. I see you. Thank you so much for staying for this panel. You guys are in for such a treat. If you stay, Cree Summer is up next, and she is a living legend. So you are going to have she's a good friend of mine. She's fabulous, and you're gonna have such a blast with her. And also, I mentioned she's a good friend of mine to say, listen, women, we have to support each other. We have to. One of the things Cree said to me when we first started hanging out was like, with our friends, we don't talk shit about our friends when they're not around. We throw roses at their back. Okay? Doesn't mean you don't have issues with your friends, by the way, but what I'm saying is, it's women power here, ladies.
Yes. The powerful potential of Black Girl Magic.
All right, thank
Before
you.
your very eyes. I've been Zero Gravity. Thank you guys so much for watching, and stick around for Cree Summer very shortly.
Thank you so much.